Hi guys, in this video we are going to talk about events in C#. Let's consider a simple scenario where we have some game with a player class, achievements class, and user interface class. Let's say we have a die method for player. Achievements class will be used for keeping count of death of a player. So if it goes beyond, for example, 100, it will give him some achievement. Also, we will implement some code for user interface class. It might show game over screen if a player dies. We can add onPlayerDead method for both of these classes. Also, we make them public so they will be accessible from the other classes. The question is, how do we call these methods if a player dies? Easy solution is to make a public delegate which takes no parameters and returns void. And we make instance of this delegate. And if a player dies, we will invoke this delegate. And don't forget to make sure that the delegate and don't forget to make sure that the value of this delegate is not null in case that no method is assigned to it. Let's make an achievements class method called start, which will be called at the start of the game. At the beginning of a game, we subscribe this method to the delegate of player, and when a player dies, we unscribe this method. Let's copy this to UI class as well. So now, if a player dies, that event delegate is invoked and all methods subscribed to it will be called. This is great, but there are two things that might go wrong. Firstly, we can type equals instead of plus equals when subscribing to a delegate. This will override anyone else that had subscribed to the delegate before. So thus, they won't get notified. Secondly, any class with a reference to a player can invoke that delegate. Everyone else who has subscribed to this delegate might mistakenly think a player is dead. Of course, it doesn't have to be an issue if you are careful in programming. But the last thing we need as programmers is another opportunity to mess things up. This is where events come in. To make an event out from a delegate, we must only add event keyword before instantiation of a delegate. From now on, we cannot assign methods to delegate directly, only subscribed or unsubscribed using plus equals or minus equals. Furthermore, we are not able to invoke a delegate, so this will throw an error. So we can think of event keyword as adding these two restrictions to the delegate. I would also like to mention two things, actions and funcs. In order to create this death event variable, we had to define a death delegate. Actions and funcs allows us to skip this step and go straight to creating a variable. So I could just replace those two lines with public event action death event. This is because action represents a delegate returning void with any number of parameters. In C#, when it comes to events, we are provided with add or remove keywords which enable you to perform some logic if you are subscribing or unsubscribing methods to a delegate. This is how we can implement adding and removing methods to delegate. As you can see, we must have implemented some action in which we will assign some methods. When subscribing a method, it will output in the console adding, and if we are unsubscribing, it will output removing. There is also very useful built-in delegate type, and it is called event handler. Okay, let's look to the definition of this event handler. We can see it takes two arguments. First one is sender, and the other is event args e. Let's look to a definition of event args. It keeps a static reference to itself, and it has public constructor. and really nothing else. In first argument, we pass a reference to an object which invoked a handler, and in the second argument, we pass some details. However, we can't pass any details in this event args class. Okay, let's move. For sender, we will pass this object, and for event args, we could possibly type null or just pass a new event args, but it is a common practice to type event args.empty as we have showed earlier. Let's look also on generic version of this event handler. I have just implemented a class that event args that just derives from an event args class, and we pass to an argument some details about the time of death and cause of death of a player. Let's look to the definition of generic event handler. This delegate enables us to provide a ton of information in a generic parameter, the event args. In this example, we can see we have a static class user interface with a static variable player. At the start of the game, we print out this message. We subscribed method to delegate, and if a player dies, on player death method gets called. It will print out time of death and some message game over, player died, and later on we unsubscribe this method. In the main method, we make instantiation of a player class, and we assign this object to player variable. In the player method, we make an instantiation of a player class and assign a reference to a player variable of user interface. We start a game and print out current time. Later on, player gets killed, and that event delegate gets invoked. And this method, which has been subscribed to that event delegate, is getting called. We print out time of the death and print out the message, game over, player died. Let's run the application. It worked just fine. As you can see, player died exactly 1 second after the start of the game. In this video, we talked about differences between delegates and events. We have learned how to raise events and how to subscribe the method to it. We have mentioned also event handlers and event args. If you found this video helpful, please consider giving a subscribe and press a like button. Stay tuned for next episodes, and bye!